Bulavinaka, Talafalava, Malalei, and Kia ora, family. Welcome back to the Need Your Money Show. My name is Joe, and today we've got a special guest with us from, it's probably not the familiar type of face that you'd see on a show like this, but this is what this show is all about. It's bridging the gap between our communities, and especially in the around the areas of money and finance. My good friend Craig here, he's been in the lending and finance industry for a while, and I'm going to give it to our brother Izzy to introduce him.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Craig, I just want to welcome you and give our audience a little quick spill about you. So, Mr. Mill, Craig Mill, is a professional with a wealth of experience in the financial and lending industry, with a background in companies like Orde Financial, Bluestone, APAC, and GE Capital. Craig has held various roles such as Sales Manager, State Manager for New South Wales and ACT, and National Business Development Manager. Craig has a track record of delivering outstanding results and building strong relationships with brokers and business partners. Craig is constantly seeking opportunities for career development and advancement in leadership roles within growing companies. Thank you, Craig, and welcome to the Need Your Money Show.
Thank you, Izzy. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Joe.
Nice. Thank you, Craig. I guess we'll just have maybe just a casual sort of discussion between ourselves and Izzy. And so between me and Izzy, so we've known each other for quite a while now, and maybe more in an unprofessional capacity. So we've sort of grown up together in the footy, and we're all our family, all our friends. We're
beautiful.
We're all, so it's always good. Like, I've been working in the finance industry, and where he probably doesn't have that much sort of expertise or knowledge in the area, and then Izzy this year has really inspired me to get the show off the ground, and then and it's good to have like a different perspective, like somebody who doesn't really know much about the industry to sort of balance what we're trying to do. So we're all about empowering our community. I think I've sort of always blurb onto you when I've had a couple of beers and say, hey, Craig, I'm passionate about helping the Pasifika community. and I guess I don't know if you've really ever got what I've meant or seen the passion that I have towards, this area of the money and lending. And
well, the key sort of areas that I've always, or our conversation's been framed around is education.
Yeah.
And I think education is not just a topic where you're saying you've got to become better or more empowered or a subject matter in that particular area, but it's about being aware of your surroundings. That's something that I've carried through over time.
Yeah, beautiful.
Craig, can you, before we get into everything, can you tell us a little bit about your background, your upbringing, and how it shaped yourself, and what values and ultimately led you to the career that you have today?
Look, in this point of time in my life, I'm probably known as, a little bit of a hustler when it comes to business.
Yes.
It's what I do, getting along with people and building relationships. And it probably started from when I was young. I come from the inner city of Sydney, growing up, in a tough background. I was 18 months when my parents probably split together, and my mum and dad were both bus drivers. We come from a very poor family, and I kind of just wanted to have, a life where I wasn't as much, I wanted to respect and to provide for my family. Something we struggled with a lot as a child. So I met my dad when I was about 8 years old. First time I ever met my old man. And, just growing up, I think in the streets of Sydney in sort of the 80s was a different environment, It was an environment where you had to hustle to get forward. Yeah. And it was full of multiculturalism back then, So whether I was, my best friend was Indigenous and had a lot of Polynesian friends. And
in Marrickville?
Around Ashfield and Canterbury and those sort of areas as a kid, and a lot of European friends. So I think branching out, learning about different cultures and different aspects, and I said this to my wife earlier, it's about multiculturalism. To me, is about you respect people who respect you.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so you grew up here till how old? Like you were here till what? Till you went to high school here?
Went to high school. So I did my primary school at Canterbury South Public, and then I went to Asheville Boys High So Asheville Boys was a rough kind of school back then.
Yep.
A lot of my friends were Fijian, so it's it was.
Did they protect you from any bashing?
They did. Like, and this is where I'd say relationships form even as a younger person.
Yeah.
A couple of my friends were Fijian, and when I went to school, and they had older brothers, and I was friends with the younger guys, and went to school, and first day of school was, give me your lunch money, mate. This bloke, and then about 2 weeks into it, one of the boys came over and he said, mate, is that guy giving you heat? I said, he is. And because I was friends with the younger brother, the older boy stepped up and voila.
Yeah, nice.
I have my lunch money back.
They made you lunch.
So I was good. But a day in Asheville, boys, if you walked out with your shoes on, you were doing well.
Yeah, no, oh, wow, okay. They're definitely tough back there. So what's inspired you to to become what you're doing today, and how's the journey involved over the years?
Probably comes from, and me and Joe laugh about this sometimes, but it probably comes from a spirituality point of view. I lost a lot of close family members when I was younger, and being the background that I come from, being a bit tougher, was the main motivation to be successful. Family, I've got 4 daughters, wife. Definitely, that's a main priority for them to be provided for, and me to do the best I can. And for myself, man, I just got internal drive.
Yeah,
I've just had that internal animal in me the whole way through.
You didn't always grow up in Sydney. Yeah, you moved around a bit. You moved to. Where did you the Sunshine Coast for a bit?
So I went to, and this is the thing about growing up in Sydney, and we talk about different cultures and getting along with different people, but I went to the northern New South Wales, and probably about an hour and a half shy of the Gold Coast, place called Alston, which was probably a community of about 2,000 people. When I got to that school, I endured more drama than I ever endured before, because I was amongst my own people, all Australians.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the thing that they were, not accepting of me was I was from Sydney.
Wow, really?
You got Nikes on, you got, you're wearing cross colours, this sort of stuff.
Culture shock.
And I'm like, hold on, man. I've been with all these people before in my life. I've overcome all these, different things, and my own, what I thought was my own people, better dislike me the most.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the bullies always want to pick on the different thing, eh?
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, they just looked at your shoes, or they looked at your shorts, and they go, well, you're wearing Nike shorts, we wear Billabong.
Oh, so those stereotypes exist even within your own community, yeah? It's
You can't be different.
But again, it's again about the relationship and the people, and there's one big thing in life, and I learned that very early, is trust and honesty earns respect from people. So if you're going to deal with people and they can start to learn a little bit about you, it's not going to happen straight away, but that building trust over a period of time earns respect.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That respect between two parties is, to me, it's a fantastic thing, because that could just lead to anything.
Yeah. How do you go about building trust within different cultures, and how do you bridge that gap?
Actions always speak louder than words.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not a case of you can just go to somebody and the trust is already there. Some people might assume that at an early piece that I'm going to give you trust. You have to hold that trust, or there are people that you have to earn that trust from. Me, I rather earn the trust. So to me, it's all about leading from the front. Doing the things that, if I'm going to say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And over time, I think that works out to be a trust winner.
Yeah.
People see you actions, you walk the walk, you talk the talk, then, you earn the respect.
Like trust can be, it could take 20 years to build, and you can lose it in 5 minutes.
and I say this great saying, it takes years to grow a rainforest, but one match to burn it down overnight.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Gems.
Gems.
I love it. So how did this relationship, how did you two meet?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was trying to place a deal. I had a customer come to me, and then just during the COVID when COVID just started.
Yeah, right.
And I was trying to send it to so Craig works for a non-bank lender. So non-bank lenders do deals that are normally outside of your normal bank loan. So they might be self-employed that don't have enough financials or stuff like that. So I had a deal, and I sent it to this person. They're like, oh, we can't do that one, but try this guy. And the company Craig works for now, Orde, was a brand new company. Craig's probably been in the position 3 days, and he's got 100 calls for deals. Yeah, and they're like, call this guy. And then I was like, oh, I know this guy. She gave me the number. I know this guy. He looks like, no, I think this guy looks a bit, I looked at his photo and I was like, I've seen this guy before. I've heard him speak. I think he's full of it, man. I don't think I'll be able to call this guy, man. He looks like those guys from, what's the Thor? He looks like Thor, man. So, but anyway, I ended up chatting to Craig, and he's like, easy, we'll do this one. Done. And then we started, you live just down the road from me, man. I seen you at a birthday party, and I don't want to say hello to you, man. And, so then we started chatting one day, and we met up for lunch, and we started doing some business together, and then we just came to find that I had a lot in common with Craig, and then it's like, wow, in my head all this time I've been making assumptions about, say, lenders or their development managers or other people that, or maybe it was my lack of self-confidence that I thought, I wouldn't be able to deal with this guy, But then when I started chatting to Craig, man, he really built my confidence in terms of that I'm just, bro, you're doing better than most other brokers out there, or you're just as capable, you got the same. So I was like, oh man, this guy is someone I can talk to and maybe, develop myself around. So it's really, that's how we met. And then, I think maybe we enjoy the stuff outside the deals too much.
Yeah. I guess it's sometimes like you're saying, you got to build that trust. How we were going on about before, it took you a while to.
Yes.
There was a perception. Like he came to one of my talks that I used to do in a previous employment, and I was quite polished in my suit, talking a whole bunch of sales and spiels and things that people sort of eat off the hand to go out there and do their thing. But he probably thought I was an unapproachable guy because I did this thing in front of 100 people. I looked very polished, but he probably didn't know the real Craig. And until we had a good one-on-one conversation, he goes, "Oh, there's more to you."
Well, it takes time, doesn't it?
It takes a lot of time.
So before we keep going, what's the difference between
non-bank and
lender? Can you explain that?
So if you go into a bank, you've got to hit a number of conforming things to qualify for a bank loan. It will come down to credit scoring. Okay, so if you've had customers that have had a poor credit rating of some sort, they've had a default in their credit file, a judgment or a bankruptcy level, they're not going to qualify at a bank to get a loan because they go through a credit scoring model. It could be various income types. So if you're self-employed and you haven't got your full financials done, or you're not 2 years self-employed, so you're under 2 years self-employed, or you don't have your full financials done, we can do what a non-bank will do, an alternative documentation loan, whereas a bank will want full financials.
Yeah, right.
So there's different types of security types that the banks won't take on that we will take on as a non-bank. So they'll be adverse to taking certain securities on because it's a risk. So the non-bank is more around anything that doesn't fit that mould. That customer needs to go to the bank that sort of fits outside of that is what we call an Orde customer.
Would that be? I mean, from your experience, is there more people than the majority that fit your mold compared to the banks, or is it the other way around?
If you look at the self-employed market as such, there's a huge market of self-employed people who don't have their financials up to date, all fantastic borrowers. They've got clear credit history, great securities, been self-employed for a long time. You're talking about builders, developers, that kind of stuff, lumpy income sources. Very quality clients, but they just don't have their affairs in order. So plenty of those sort of customers out there. There's big volumes to write.
Geez, I've never really heard of it. So
that was good, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm learning something today.
Yeah, ask the questions for it.
And sort of non-banks, when brokers, they get paid a commission or whatever, and then we have what we call as a no clawback to brokers, which means the hardest thing for a broker or like someone like Joe is that you could be like, say, a plumber. You go out and do the work, and you do the piping. You get paid, and that's great. Job's done. You got your invoice paid. With a broker, when they write a loan, they're on the hook for 2 years. So if that customer refinances with the bank directly or with another broker, their income gets taken away from them.
Yeah, right.
So basically, they've done their work for free. So a broker does a lot of stuff for a customer, but they're on the hook for 2 years. So with Orde Financial, where I'm at, we do a no clawback policy, which means that the broker's not going to be on the hook and is removed from losing any commissions.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and usually with the type of customers you're talking about, they just generally need a little bit more equity to contribute to, generally 10 to 20%, to do a deal. Usually just
generally 20%.
20%, yeah.
So as long as they've got a deposit or you're refinancing it with equity, then they can do it.
Yeah.
Well, here in Australia, we don't really sort of, our credit record, things like that, it's not the same as, I guess, the way they look at it in America.
Yeah.
No, probably not. And, it's even like customers understanding how that works.
Yeah.
And because every client thinks I'm a bank customer.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. I remember being in, Smithfield doing a branch manager role, and I've seen so many different people in different communities coming in, and, you'd have to educate them, why they couldn't get a loan. So if I had to decline them, or the reasons that we could give them a loan. So
when you're talking about that, Smithfield, you used to work for GE, right? GE Money, and you're working in the personal loan department there. And I think at that time it was probably 15, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
It's a long time. It flies.
It's gone
but
quick,
back
man.
then,
It's
that was
gone
probably
quick.
our parents' time, right? That he was writing loans for, say, our parents, or, the first wave of Pacific migrants, which, a lot of them use GE. I used to see bank statements at 25%, 30%, but it's not that it was a bad thing. That's just what it is. That's how personal loans are priced. But when we talk about communities, I didn't really see any home loan, like too many Pasifika home loan customers at that time, or maybe there wasn't that many of us.
No, there wasn't.
But in terms of personal loans, there would have been a lot of us, right? So I think Craig, from your experience,
That's a good one, because back then, and I think it's generational wealth is probably what you're touching on there.
Yeah.
And when I used to see people, what they really wanted, and say Polynesian people they wanted to buy a car for their family. To get from A to B, take the kids to school.
Get to work,
there was no such thing as thinking about a home loan.
That's true. I think back,
Honestly.
not many people had cars back then.
true.
100%.
Get a Tarago and fit them all in, mate.
Yeah.
The Churchmobile.
That's it.
But now you go to one of the houses and everyone's got a car.
That's right. So back then it was a big thing.
Yeah, for sure.
To get a vehicle.
I never thought about it like that. I do remember GE Money when I first bought my car.
Oh, yeah, so you use GE Money.
Yeah, I think it was 2000. Oh,
Are
early
they still around,
2000s.
GE?
No.
Okay.
They're finished, yeah.
Yep. Beautiful.
Sorry, okay. Well, go. We keep going.
We keep rolling.
I'm trying to go down my list here. How do you and your team ensure clients in the diverse community feel understood and respected and comfortable with seeking financial advice?
With myself, I work mainly with brokers. Good thing about working with brokers is that there's a whole bunch of different culture that runs through brokers. So there could be all types of backgrounds when it comes to brokers, and they heavily work in their communities. For us as a business, we focus on the broker, and we don't have a direct customer channel model. So our important thing is to support the broker and support their customers through an end-to-end transaction. So I would think, for us to respect brokers, respect customers, is by giving them, genuine outcomes when it comes to business. And really, it's about, finding out the full story and putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
How do you, like, for someone who's coming to you and they think, oh man, I just don't have the right paperwork, and you just feel like, I mean, you're hesitating, right? So,
and I often say to people, it's that you've got to take yourself out of your industry you're in sometimes and actually feel like what the customer feels like. You know, I'm anxious about a purchase. Yeah. I'm anxious I'm not going to get approved for a loan. So sometimes you can't have too much industry talk or industry speak or acronyms and different things that you
put
say.
too much pressure on yourself.
You put too much pressure and the customer doesn't understand that. It's really about how you walk them through a whole process to the end goal and make it very clear in layman's terms. You don't want to make it, too complicated for somebody. So I just suggest to anybody in any industry, if you're fairly skilled in something, just think about the customers not in your industry. Peg it back. Peg it back.
And I think that's where a lot of the gap has been maybe in our community, because it's hard to find somebody who could articulate concepts or products in a way that would that they would resonate with. Yeah. Just the way you talk, maybe just understanding cultural values and and traditions, and being able to apply that in the way you communicate it to them. Correct. And I think for us Pacific Islanders, I think family is really big. So, buying a home, really, I think I've been miscommunicating how, because I'm technical, so I sell a product, not really understanding that customer's tradition or cultural values, but now, it's like it's really important, like what you say, to communicate, to understand your customer.
But just like, you had the view of me. Yeah. I think customers, if say you were a Polynesian, they wouldn't look at Craig and say, I'm going to come to a loan for him because maybe I'm not going to resonate well with him. Yep. But someone like Joe, they're going to be able to communicate because, you're all on the same playing field. Not that to say I can't help them and I wouldn't help them and I wouldn't go above and beyond because I'll do 120% for everybody. Yes. But the fact that I think the broker network is now 74% of all loans that originate in Australia now are written through a broker, not a bank. Yeah. Okay. So now it's very much about, each culture, brokers in cultural areas to hone in on those clients. And why banks don't do as much business direct as they used to is that they've all decentralised. So if you look around Australia, you had a lot of branch network that's now closed. Yep. So local business local business bankers or local branch managers no longer exist. And, in those smaller communities, people used to just go to the bank to have a conversation. They had their old passports and they'd go into the bank and they just went in there for a chat and that was their local area. But now they've got nowhere else to go to so if I was to go and see a broker, what's the value? The value is they work outside of hours from the bank. They're accessible. They email you back quickly. You can contact them on weekends. These are all the things that the banks don't do anymore. And why are brokers so successful? Service is why brokers are successful. If you provide the best service, you'll be the best in business.
Have you had much experience working with other Pacific people in your industry? Are there many in the banking and finance industry, or?
In my time, I have.
Yeah, okay.
I wouldn't say it's a majority. I'd say it's very much a minority. Yeah. But in my time, I've got to work with some, fantastic operators that are in your community. Yes. Whether they've been direct employees for business or whether they've been brokers. So I've seen both. Yeah. And very successful. Yeah, because
I feel like a bank doesn't really know our community in a sense of how do we sell a product to these guys or how do we market to these guys. I don't think it's quite there yet, and part of this platform is creating that awareness that there's a market here. Yeah, but we've got these families and these communities, but they respond in this way to a certain product or
correct.
So it's sort of like,
but also like I think over time with my learning and everything, I've always you don't realise that there's more than just 4 banks. Correct. So how many banks is there in Australia?
Oh, look, I wouldn't even know, but there's a ton, right? Because there's you've got your major banks and then you've got your non-major banks. And look, everything is very similar when it comes to a bank. And I think the only thing that we can educate people on is that there are options. Yeah. And these options don't cost money to get a health check. Go and get a health check on your finances today. Yeah. You might be surprised what somebody can offer you. Yeah. And again, it may be a bank loan or it may be a solution.
When you say a health check, what do you mean?
A financial health check would be have a look at your current rate on your mortgage.
Yep.
Okay. Can we do something better for that? Have a look at your overall structure. You might have residential or commercial loans or self-managed super fund loans or whatever the case may be. But it's an overall, if you're going to a broker, they've got the data and the information to tell you what the best deal for you is today. It moves quickly.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right.
Sometimes it just doesn't hurt because you might be anxious. Like you're worried about, oh man, my kids are growing up. I need to get a bigger house, but I don't know if I can do it. But it's in your head, but it doesn't cost you anything to just go have a chat or ask the question.
Well, that's where the hesitation and the lack of not knowing. You just go, I'll just put it off because that's like with everything. I'll just put it off.
Like how much is this going to cost me?
Well, that's it. You go, it's just another thing I've got to do today.
Yeah. But you can see a broker for free, and
there you go.
They've got access to absolutely fantastic systems that can look at your the best options for you.
Yeah, sure. Can you share with us some some good stories of
it's probably endless with the amount of customers that I've probably helped at one point in time. There's all sorts of different stories when it comes to loans or insurance stuff that I've done over my time, but generally the ones I love is where they have been knocked back. I had a particular person that come to me just prior to Christmas and they wanted to get something done, but they were knocked back by their bank. And we were able to, get the cash they needed, do the refinance and have the money done before Christmas, giving them a fantastic holiday period with their family. So these are we see, people that have been in, sicknesses and now back on their feet, their children have got sick, something's gone wrong, they've lost their job through no fault of their own. And, they come to us and we make them feel at ease.
Not judged or, not stereotyped or not, Why haven't you paid this type of question?
It happens to everybody. It doesn't matter how much of a high flyer you are. You could be, today, we've seen people in business that, multimillionaires lose everything overnight. It doesn't matter who you are. You're not immune to anything. It just means that you should feel comfortable enough to have a conversation with someone and just be honest about your situation. The more honest you are about a situation, the better outcome you'll get. And I say this a lot. If I was to go to a wealth creator, so someone in wealth, they say, Craig, tell me a little bit about what you've got. I'm going to tell them everything. I've got this, I've got that, I've got these assets, I've got this money. When it comes to a finance company, they say, tell me everything you've got, and customers try to hide. They hide the information. And what lenders do is they find that information out, and then you're on the back foot. Once you're on the back foot, you're on a path of a declinal. So it's funny that people still have this I think thing about themselves when they see a broker. I can't tell them everything.
That we're the bank, right? They think that we're the bank.
Well, why do you think they do that? Is it
they think their chances of approval is higher if I don't
lie about
something.
it.
They lie about it, man. They lie about it.
Yeah, but now we've got something called open credit reporting, Craig. So just to the viewers, a little bit about. Do you know what? Do you have open credit reporting? Izzy, so this is important.
I'm always learning. Open credit reporting.
Just explain to us a little bit about what open credit reporting is, please, Craig, because we're talking about customers not disclosing information, but there's a new law that came out a couple of years ago that it's called open credit reporting. It's to do with your credit files, people. So
so everybody has a credit file, okay, that's created with a footprint that, when you apply for finance and you get finance loans and you get all different, particular products. If you are late on your products, they get reported to this bureau.
Products, you mean like
loans?
Home
loans, personal loans, car loans. So a range.
Tax debts.
It could be even if you owe money to somebody that you borrowed it and they put like a caveat on your property.
To your auntie?
Yeah, it could be anyone.
It could be anyone.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But back to open reporting, it will tell you how often you're late with your repayments, if you've missed repayments, or the positive stuff, if you've made all those on time, that really builds a solid credit rating up for yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
they've all just put it under one umbrella.
And the main reporting companies. So Equifax is one of the biggest ones in Australia. They're probably the main
government?
for consumer. No, they're a private company. Equifax, private company their credit data and spending and whatnot. And then you got Ilion, who do a lot of the commercial business.
Are they
reporting.
all private or?
All private.
Yeah.
All private, big
I think
companies.
you've got Dun & Bradstreet.
Dun & Bradstreet.
Dun & Bradstreet, yeah.
I think Ilion's bought them, or Dun & Bradstreet
sure.
bought Ilion, yeah.
We don't credit score at Orde, so
Yeah, that's right. So tell us a little bit about that, the difference between how the bank, so when you go to a bank, they look at your credit file, they can see all what you've paid and what you haven't paid, what you're late, whereas the difference with you guys is,
There are two types of reports, as you say, what we call a CCR report, which is the open report that you were just alluding to, which is a comprehensive credit reporting. Or there's what we call a negative credit bureau report, which will only tell you limited information. So that limited information will tell you things of what inquiries you've made over the last 5 years in finance, so who you've applied with.
Yep.
It will tell you if you've got a judgment or a default or a bankruptcy level. It'll tell you that the last employer that you were with when you applied for a loan.
Yep.
And it will tell you things such as your full name, your date of birth, your address, but it's not going to go into the details of what your current loans are and what payment histories are.
I think, like with people listening to this who have no idea about it, it just feels so overwhelming. And even knowing, like,
That's why
you know so much about me. Yeah, you know so much about me. But then from there, how do you sort of bring us back and put some sort of reassurance and everything's going to be okay?
Yeah, well, I was never going to land in finance. That was not a job I was ever going to do. If you know, like my mum wanted me to become a lawyer, get a Porsche one day, Craig. But it got down to just a quick backstory is I was working in the supermarket. I was living in my car, and
how long ago was this?
This was when I first started in finance. I was only 17, 18. I was working, so I come back to Sydney. I lived in my car for a few months, and I went and worked for a supermarket. And one thing led to another. I lost that job. I lost that job.
what did you do to the boss, mate?
Actually, look, I had an altercation with his son. But anyway, let's just call it an altercation.
Mate, you put the melons in the wrong spot.
It was something like that, and then it wasn't until I was about 6 weeks unemployed that I went, I've got to go and get a job because I'm going to get kicked out. I've got living in the car. I'm not going to be able to get a proper rental, or what am I going to do? So I looked at this newspaper ad, and it was a little mailroom boy job at a finance company. And I remember what I did is I went up to St Vincent's de Paul, living at Erskineville at the time, and I had no money, and I asked the lady, could she provide me a suit?
Wow.
And she gave me a suit, and she said, go and have that job interview. Went up to the train, jumped the turnstile that day, got a fine. Went to the job, got the job.
Amazing,
came into that lady a couple of weeks later with a bunch of flowers. So,
oh, wow.
I never thought I'd land in finance. So the funny thing is, I landed as a mailroom boy. I was licking envelopes, and I come up with this great idea. You should get an envelope machine. That put me out of a job. I was always
thinking ahead, mate. Thinking ahead.
I was always a bit of an entrepreneurial person, and then I got into collections, which was actually seeing the other end of lending.
Yeah, how was that?
Yeah, so this is where I wanted to get to. I know it took a couple of seconds, but it was when people were defaulted. They were just down and out, hadn't made their payments. The loan 6 months in arrears, 12 months in arrears, 18 months in arrears, and you were talking to people that just had nothing.
Yeah.
And endured some very sad stories in that time, and we had to collect money off them so they repaid their loans. And I think what I learned from collections was who to lend to. Because really there were people.
You saw the other side of the coin, eh? Yeah.
They just tell you bullshit.
Yeah.
And again, it's how honest you are.
Yep. People try to take advantage of that.
Yep. They try and take advantage. They threaten you.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I think people, when they're at the lowest, they're low.
Yeah.
We had people that committed suicide through that process. You know, I had people, try and punch me from one end of the road to the other. We used to knock on people's doors. We used to repossess cars. We used to, knock on the doors and ask for our payments to be made.
Wow.
So it was, I was only 18.
I would have paid up if I'd seen you come to the door, man. Look at this big guy.
I'll tell you what, I guess for people out there who are going through this, there's always a way out. There's always an option.
There is always an option. Yeah. And again, even talking to your broker in this case will assist, because I think what people do, and this is probably in any problem, is you stick your head in the sand and you hope things go away. Yeah. We all do it. Yeah. Men do it the most.
Yeah.
We just think if we just don't talk about it, we'll just put our head in the sand, it'll just go away. But the longer you put something off, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
So it's just about facing that pretty early.
Yep.
And trying to come up with a solution around it.
Craig also collects coins. So like, while we're on the so he's a coin collector, and tell us a little bit about that, Craig.
Look, I do.
Yeah.
Look,
whose doors are you knocking at?
Anyone I could hustle, anyone I could do a bit of hustle with, I do. So I do a number of different things in my time. I love little hobbies outside of work. I played the guitar for a number of years, or try and do things. You
sing, or you just play?
No, I'm terrible.
No, he's a good singer, man. I've heard him sing, mate. He's a rapper, actually.
Some dulcet tones here today, but the singing voice is not there. But just I'd like to learn things, and picking up the guitar and learning that from scratch was something I wanted to do. To the coin collecting part, I never knew anything about coins. I found one coin in my change one day, and I said this was interesting. I went and learned about about collecting, and it's quite a big thing. Yeah. And now I run a coin page and have a bunch of members that sit under that page that buy.
What's
and
a bunch
coins.
of members? How many?
About 2,000.
in like a month. In 1 month, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
there you
he does the
go.
live auctions.
He
does the live auctions, and he gets like 3,000 people on the call, or 2,000 people, and he's auctioning.
Hey.
You should check it out. I'm like, Craig, you got to give me some tips on how do I do this, man, on Facebook. And it's crazy. And
how'd you even start? What got you into it?
We're connecting with people again, same as relationships. It can happen online. You can still connect with people, right? This is the way the future is today.
Yeah.
You don't have to go out there and have an actual business but what... I was buying and selling off coin pages for a long time, and I met a lot of people through those circles. Yep. And when I created my coin page a few months ago, I just recruited those people on board that I bought and sold off in that period of time, and built a very quick momentum on the page. And within 90 days, we had 2,000 members. Yeah. So and growing.
What's a popular coin? Is it? I mean, in Australia.
Like $2 coins are the most popular.
Yeah. Okay.
Like coloured $2 coins, new releases and stuff like that are very popular. So there are things such as a 2012 red poppy would have been $2 in 2012. Today it'd be worth about $300.
Oh wow! Look at the kids running around there.
So
go
check
find
your
dad's
mum and
wallet.
dad's jars, guys. If you can find a red poppy in there, you're $300 up.
So $2 you can get $300 for it.
Some expensive coins is when you look at it. How much? What are some of the expensive coins?
There was a coin called from a planetary set called the Mars coin that retailed for about $175 the folder when it come out.
Australian?
At its peak it was selling for $7,500.
Yeah. I've heard of coins selling for like $1 million, $2 million if you find.
If you're talking about 1930 pennies, those sort of things in Australia, they're worth a lot of money. But again, it comes down to scarcity. So the less of an item you got, or same as when you start to bring it back to real estate, you got more houses than people. More people than houses. It's going to drive price. And if you've got a lower mintage on coins than you have people, it's going to drive price.
Yeah, for sure.
2,000 members in, we're growing. The Coin Spot Australia
guys, the Coin Spot Australia, guys.
Coin Spot Australia.
Give it a like, and hey, boss Polly's out there. We need an extra business, man. Check out coins.
Yep. If you want to make a bit of extra coin on the weekends, so that's what you can do.
What's the rarest coin that
in Australia? In Australia, it'd be the 1930 penny. 1930. Yep.
So. If you got it.
I've seen people. I've read stories on the Herald, man. They're putting it in big safes and just fully armored and everything.
Fully armored.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. To
There you
read
go.
up on it, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a whole different
Some
world.
of them could be worth more than homes. So yeah, amazing.
People sell their wives or their mother.
But, you look at it and you go, he's a bit of a nerd. He does this, he does that. But like at the end of the day, it's just about doing something you're not comfortable with, something different, and learn about it. And if you become good at something, then you'll be successful at it. It's about how much effort you put into things.
Yeah, for sure. Getting into this coin thing with me, or
Man, we had so many
let's
coins at
keep the podcast.
Hey,
That's a
next
separate
one,
podcast, guys.
Oh wow! Hey, how can financial literacy and education play a role in empowering our Pasifika community?
That's a really good question, and I think that probably needs to go over a series of topics.
Yep.
When you start to have a library out of different areas that you need to become educated in, and it's me stripping it back and saying, hey, I'm a finance person, and not talking to finance, financy to a customer, lingo to a customer. It's about peeling back and taking every segment and educating them on a 1 to 10 step basis of what it is. It doesn't have to be, rocket science. It just has to be, something that's simple and easy to digest. So it's all about building content. That's what I would do if I was to educate a community around what each thing does and how it works. Is just building content around those. How do
you start? I mean, just at home when you're talking to the kids, about money, about what to do with, I guess. And this is the thing. When you're finishing year 12, nobody talks to you about money. We talk about, many years ago, you get a Dolomites account. CBA would come out to your school and they talk to you about saving money, but no one talks to you about how do you set up your financial profile once you leave school. So as an 18-year-old, you can get a mobile phone. Okay, now you don't pay that phone. No. That's a loan. That's a default. Now 5 years, you can't borrow money. Right. So it's about educating our young youth around. Can you explain that again?
Yeah, so say an 18-year-old qualifies to get credit. Okay, to get a mobile phone, you have to apply for credit. So you think you're actually applying just to get a phone.
But it's on your credit phone.
But it's actually a credit facility you're applying for.
Even at the phone shop?
Yeah, okay. Also, Afterpay. Okay. You're 18. You want to buy, yourself a new stereo or whatever, and you think I'm going to pay that off over 8 weeks. If you miss on those repayments, that's going to be a default in your credit file. So it's about understanding when you're at school level what you should be doing and what are the things to look out for when you start applying for credit or product, and what you should be really doing and making sure that they focus on. I make my repayment each month. Don't miss that. You might think it's insignificant, but it's very significant. Now, going to buy your first home, that pops up. We talked about before, what's a non-bank loan? That's a non-bank loan.
Okay.
And now they're going to have a 20% deposit, as opposed to, if they didn't have that default, they could get maybe a 95%. So very important that we, as parents and people and figures of the community, are talking to the young people and ensuring that they understand, when they get to 18, they're going to have to be very savvy when it comes to spending. And when I touch on spending, what banks will look at is your spending habits. So if you're out in the club every weekend or the RSL club and you pull out
it happens.
I'm out there, but you pull out $1,000 out of the ATM machine. The lender will question you and say, okay, was that for gambling? And then they start to get a profile. Now, if they see you doing that every 2 weeks, they'll start to build up a rhythm of what you're doing, and that rhythm will come down to you can't afford your loan because you're spending too much gambling. So it's about spending behaviours. It's about where you're spending your money. Are you spending in the right areas? And then it's about the product and stuff you get and maintaining that in good order. And if you can do that and save money, you're going to go great. But if you don't, It generally comes down to people not being educated.
Yeah.
So, maybe a first topic around that, Joe, would be how do you educate young people coming out of school as a first point, because they're the generation of the future.
Yes.
How do you set them up for success?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So within our community, I guess money is new to. So money's only been around in the Pacific for just over 100 years. So you probably money's probably ingrained into you before you were born. Like your parents have dealt with it. So I think it is. I think we're growing quickly in this area, and I think it's time for us to excel. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It is. Look, and I touched on earlier. Like I come from a family that had no money. They were poor when it come to education. They had no idea.
Yeah.
But the financial landscape's changing too, right? There's a lot of digital. It's becoming very digital, the economy.
Of course.
So in terms of now how we teach it, it's going to be, like probably the foundations of money is pretty much still numbers, right? So knowing your numbers.
It's all technology driven, and things are going to change, and AI and a number of different things are going to move, but it still doesn't take away from your behavioural habits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you do as a person. Your footprint might be out there and might be seen more, but it still comes down to how you set yourself up.
Yeah.
So for someone who's just leaving school now, just a basic way of, I'm getting a set amount each week.
Yep.
What should I be doing with that? I guess percentage-wise.
I look at it this way: if they're living with their parents,
stay there.
Look, the bank of mum and dad's fantastic. They do. If you ever need a loan, mum and dad might be a good one.
Yeah.
They're a good starting point. But in all seriousness, it's all about showing a genuine savings per week of your income. So whether that's taking 30-40% of your income. I got a story because I said to my daughter, she's about to get a car, and I said, look, if you save enough, and she got a first job about a year and a half ago. I said, if you save enough money, I said, whatever you save, I'm going to double it.
Yeah.
Right? And anyway, so she's about to turn. She's got a P's, and she's about to buy a car. And I said, "Oh, look, since you've been working for a year and a half," I said, "How much have you saved?" She said, $10,000.
Dad, I got you now. I got you, Dad.
So
a deal's a deal, eh?
A deal's a deal. So maybe it's all about giving incentive as a parent as well.
Yep.
Giving incentive to your children to save.
Yeah.
Give them a goal.
Yep.
You can only be accountable if you have a goal.
Yeah.
As opposed to me, when I used to come home on a Friday night, my dad would be sitting with the lights off, and then I'd get home about 11 o'clock on a Friday night, and he'd say, "Craig, how much money you got left?"
Well, for kids who don't have parents who think like that, any advice for them?
Look, I think, just get yourself a savings account and try and give yourself, try and put a portion away per week, and don't touch that portion.
Yeah.
Obviously there's emergencies and different things, but it's all about, it's all about focus and doing something as a habit.
Yeah.
Get yourself into a habit. After about, 21 days, it becomes, a little bit more stickier.
Yep.
But a lot of it's got to come from the self. You can't rely on others to help you. You've got to take your own accountability and responsibility. So it's about setting yourself a goal. Yeah. And I can't say any more than that, because the problem is if they don't do it, it's on them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So Craig, in terms of you grew up around a few Pacific Islanders and have worked with some now. Like your perception, what is the outside perception towards Pacific people and money? Like, because you've been in that environment. Like, what is the perception generally? Just Yeah.
That's a hard question for me to answer, because I've always been around the whole multicultural aspect. As I say, my best friend was Indigenous, and there was Polynesian people around me, European people around me, and I don't think. First thing when I was in finance back a long time ago is I probably felt they were a little bit uneducated, nervous about trying to get a transaction.
Yeah.
No one's ever discussed what finance was. So I would have say islanders come in for a loan, and I would say to them, hey, I'm going to need you to bring in X, Y, Z. And if you don't bring in X, Y, Z, you're not going to get your loan. Yeah. Now, they'd pop into the branch and they'd come with no documents.
Yep.
Hey, boss. Boss, can you approve me?
Yeah.
My patience had to get better when I was dealing back then. And the way I used to do it, and just my own simplicity, and the way I'm a very simple person, I would just tell them to bring a pad and pen out, write it down, and then after we had the conversation, I would get them to read that list out to me.
Yeah.
And then just try and make them confident.
Yeah. Well, confidence is a huge one, eh?
Yeah. So it was just I think I talk fast,
awesome.
so
no, that's good.
That's a problem for other people. It's like boom, 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 boom. I need this.
Well, definitely, like especially in the Pacific Islands and
Fiji time,
Fiji time, but also that whole like respect thing, and you're sitting on the other side of the table. It's also like I'm forcing myself to even eye contact, right?
Correct.
So
correct in our culture.
It's very disrespectful to look someone in the eye or someone that has a bit of authority.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's why when you're speaking to a lot of islanders, it's like look at you, but then sort of look down. But there's more of a respect thing. So don't see it as people being disrespectful, but from our culture,
that's crazy.
You're not allowed to look elders like in the eye, and
in the eye. So that's why sometimes we always put bowing your head type thing.
Which I always took it as a nervousness or something like that.
No, they're very. There's a lot of. I mean, we still do that. It comes natural because we've always done it. So. There's a lot of smart people out there, but they'll very calmly and quietly speak to you. And yes, you could take it as nervousness, but some of them are very switched on as well. So.
That's where I sometimes feel like the misconception is between like European and the cultural
that's
communities.
The difference,
is
bro.
the traditional sort of.
Some people are more direct, or some people are more laid back, as you say. But it's that respect thing that we give each other.
Yeah.
Learning something every day. I love it. Sorry.
No, that's all right. We'll just keep rolling. Joe's got more questions, I believe.
Joey got a. Have you got credit?
Huh?
Have you got credit for the? No. Just the reception.
Put the
Remember, you used to have you got credit? Pay for the phone. I used to get some reverse calls.
You got to top it up. Go to the servo. Get $10.
Sorry, mate.
Phone credit.
Get the voucher. Get the voucher. At the servo.
I used to get a reverse charge.
Nokia.
On the payphone. Do you accept this call from?
That was the best.
Cheswami.
That was the best. Just back in the day of jumping in a payphone and making a call to someone.
Well, in the Pacific Islands, they do collect calls. Back in the day, we used to think that it's a reverse call. You call this, and we have to.
We did the same thing here.
On the payphone.
1-300 reverse or something.
Yeah, that's right. But now it's free on the side of the road.
But they used to charge you a lot for those phone calls too.
I know.
Yeah, so your parents would get crack the shits. My uncle used to have a telephone at his house, like the old school telephone. He used to have a lock on it.
Oh, yeah.
That's how savvy he was with finance. He used to have a money box next to it. So back then it was like 40 cents to make a phone call. So you had to pay him 40 cents to use his phone.
Yeah, well, there you go.
What does it take for someone to get into lending who's new or who's maybe aspiring to become, get into the finance industry? What do you reckon some of the basic skills they would need or the criteria to fulfill,
Different. There's all different roles, so there's different personality types for different roles, and I think that's what's the great thing about finance. It comes, you don't have to be a certain personality to get yourself a role. There is, there's particular roles that are customer facing, and there's roles that are non-customer facing, and there's even roles where you don't even have to talk to customers. There's digital roles. There are sales roles. There are collections roles and all sorts of different things, but you might be working on technology, you might be working on, service, whatever it is. So I think there's a role for everybody. So really it depends on your personality type and what that role would be for you in the finance industry. But I think it's more about just coming into, if you want to get a role into finance, it's about turning up. About turning up.
You don't really need certain, with qualifications, you can come out and get into a role in the finance industry without really having anything.
I was living in the car, Joe.
Yeah, so that's what that's the one I want to emphasize that, that's like, you don't really need to be qualified to get into the finance industry. Just basically have a passion and,
I'm not going to lie, I've got a 6-figure salary and I've got no education when it comes to, apart from high school.
Yeah.
I came straight out from school
That's it.
into a finance role.
Yeah.
And it's about how hard you work.
Yeah.
And, turning up and doing the right thing and, ensuring that compliance is number one.
Yes.
And just doing as I say, just the hard yards, but do it with integrity.
Yeah.
What advice would you give yourself now? I mean, your younger self.
The advice I would have given myself now is take more risk.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I played it a little bit too safe when I was younger. I think been more successful if I took more risk. So I'm not saying like go out and put your
work-wise.
Work-wise, work-wise. It's just I think I would have preferred to take more risk and be self-employed and back myself more. I because I come from a tough family, I always thought a steady wage or whatever would be, and providing for my family would be the key.
Yep.
And having like holiday pay and sick pay and superannuation paid for me. But I think now, if I look at it now, I would have, my biggest advice I would have given myself is, Craig, take the risk when you're young and do something. Do something for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Yeah. But yeah, Craig, thank you very much for coming out and speaking to us today. This year we're basically like with our community to just breaking down the barriers between money and finance, and speaking to people like yourself. You're like a wealth of knowledge for us. And Craig works for a company called Orde Financial, guys. So if you're
click the link below.
Yeah, click the link below, or give me a call for a health check, and give Izzy a call for a
Don't
chat.
call me.
For some transport, Dalana transport. Yeah, guys. So
Thank you very much, Craig.
thank you,
I appreciate
Craig.
you.
Yeah.
Absolutely, really appreciate the chat today, guys. I think it's very insightful. What you guys are doing is fantastic. I think if you continue to focus on education, talking to people, different topics, this thing will just absolutely blow up. So
Thank you.
done,
Thank you very
guys.
much.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.